January 2026, 2023. This is the Emini 2000 tick chart on a thinkorswim platform, paper trader. This is what I saw today. Looked like it was in a gigantic trading range. Toward the end of the day, it kind of broke out of the trading range. It was pretty choppy. I did overtrade today, but I followed my rules. It just happened I took too many trades than I think I should have. I probably saw a few entries that were a little iffy, but I didn't get emotional. So this is what it looked like at the beginning of the day. Actually, this is what it looks like at the end of the day. And this is the chart marked up. Just want to point out that this is kind of where I had my big trading range here at the high and the low. And then as you can see, it kind of oscillates. Toward here, it got a little bit difficult to fit a good trend channel, and I'll get to it when I get here. But let's just dive in and see what it looks like. So this is the pre-market. I don't really trade the pre-market. And as it was going up, here's the trading range I established. It looked like it was going from bottom left to top right. So it is going up. So I did draw this trend channel at the time. So let's see what happens. Right at the open, I see a potential trade developing because I see it hit the top of this trading channel, which it has respected because it has two good touches down here. And actually, this is a little bit lower at the time, right here. And I thought, okay, well, I'm going to actually drag it up to see if it might actually be a little bit higher. So what I saw was I saw first entry long, and then I saw second entry long here. So this candle didn't print yet. I didn't take the trade because I wasn't ready, but this looked like it would have been a reasonably good trade because at this point, EMA is shooting up. Prices are respecting it somewhat right here and here, so it was worth a shot. I do know it's getting up close to the top of the trading range, so it would have been enough for a scalp though. So I marked it, but I didn't take the trade. If I decided to take the trade here, then for sure it would have been too late. I would have taken here on an engulfing and trust that since it bounced off the EMA, it was a good trade. But as I said, I didn't take that trade and just let it go. So here it broke above my trading range, but it is confirming this trend line, which is good because I have two touches here and two touches here. Because as I said, I previously was thinking maybe it's down here. Kept an open mind that it could happen because here you'd have a bunch of overshoots though. I didn't quite like that, so I dragged it up to here. And now it's kind of confirming the revised trading range, trading channel. Touches twice and breaks back down. So at this point, I draw this line here, and I just kind of arbitrarily dragged it. I think it was probably up higher right here. And at the time, I wasn't sure, so it's probably closer to here at the time. Prices moved down. Looks like it's breaking back in. There's no trade set up. Prices keep going. And here now it goes down a second time, right? So, excuse me, that was too far. Here it goes down a second time. Now I'm not really sure if this trading range, this lower bar might actually have to come down to here. It looks a little bit cleaner here, so that's what I did. I dragged it down to here. I do see a first entry long followed by a second entry long setting up right here. But I didn't take it because I thought it was aggressive. Here, it's already at the top of this big trading range developed and established at the beginning in the pre-market, as well as it's got a double top here. So taking this entry, I felt was a little bit more aggressive, so I left it alone. Ends up, it would have worked for a scalp, and it broke up above, and now it's coming back down. So now it's coming back down. I'm wondering if it's going to stick to this trading range, or it's going to break through. As you can see, right now, it looked like it broke through and then closed above the EMA. And then now it's really congested because it made it a second candle, actually a third candle, that are all about the same size. So that's just telling me I should just sit out, wait for better price action before I get trapped. Now here, it's considering like, okay, maybe there's a second entry long here, but it's at the low end, which is fine, but it's also below the EMA. Following candle, it went up and then came back down. So it didn't close above the EMA. So it's telling me maybe this trend channel bottom part isn't going to hold. But I didn't take any action. I just waited and watched. Turns out it would have worked. So it keeps going down, comes up. At this point, I figure, okay, there might be a trading range going down, trading channel going down. So I drew this. This probably was actually touching here at the time, but I adjusted it later. But let's just pretend that it was touching. I arbitrarily put the bottom right here, just so I have a little bit of a guideline to see where things and where prices might go. So it keeps going down. It's respecting and staying below the EMA. Here's my first break. So it's a break. I'm expecting it to go back in and maybe test the new low. So prices keep going up. Here, it touches the EMA and it's touching this top of this trading channel. This would have been a good entry if I had a cleaner bar. Now, other people might have actually had a first entry here, but my candle actually didn't form that way, and a second entry. If this formed better, I would have taken this trade because it would have been two key entry points. But on my chart, it just shows first entry and a key entry point. And at that time, I wasn't super confident that trade would work. Ends up it would have worked. So I'm thinking on other people's charts, if they're using a different platform, this probably would have been a good setup, but not for me. So that's okay. I'll let the trade go. Keeps going down. So now it touches. I see a first entry and I see a second entry. But I thought it was a little aggressive because it's pretty far, although it is touching potentially the bottom of this trading range, this trading channel, excuse me. It didn't really touch the bottom, so I wasn't quite ready to take that entry. Again, it turns out it would have worked if I had taken even on this candle. It would have come down, probably made me a little nervous, and then gone back up. So that's a trade I just passed up. So here's moving. And I drew this line here, as well as this line down here as a trading range, just to see if it's going to hold or if there's any kind of way to see if there's any price guidance for me to visualize. Here I see a second entry long. So it goes first entry long, second entry long. I didn't take this trade because this candle is not a very good signal candle, and it's also far from the EMA. So I wait. It breaks above. So now this is a reasonably good candle to take. However, it's counter trend to the overall motion of it's bearish going down. It was bullish going up, but now it's kind of exceeded more than half of this move up. So taking this entry up here made me a little nervous because at the time I thought there was a possibility that potentially the trading range top of the channel could have been here. So I'd already be taking it pretty close to the top of the trading range. And if I was here, I am taking it with just enough to scalp out, but not enough for me to feel comfortable taking that trade. So here it kind of pulls back, and then it turns out it would have worked for a scalp, but my experience level tells me I better have left that alone, and I did, just because I haven't seen it enough times to get a good feel of what was going to happen. Comes up, it looks like it's testing the top of this trading range again. There's no entry here. Breaks through. Now it looks like it might be losing some power, and it comes right back down. So I didn't really see a good entry because you count this as a new low, say first entry, second entry. Okay, that's fine. It is going with trend, but to take it, I would have to take an engulfing, which would have been one tick here, but this isn't a really super nice signal candle. Then I would have to have taken it here or get my order ready here. I wasn't really sure if that was going to happen as well, so I just sat in my hands and waited. A little more conservative today until later when you'll see I kind of overtraded. So it breaks down, it touches the bottom again. So we have first entry, second entry long. Second entry long, it broke past this candle. However, it's below the EMA. So I'd have to wait to see what the next candle provided. Next candle is actually lower than this candle. So it's telling me, okay, maybe that first entry long could be a second entry long here could have been a failed second entry long. I just left it alone. Again, it's getting congested now, super congested, because look at all these candles in a row. And that's just telling me, okay, well, it can't quite figure out which way it wants to go. Better just let them figure it out. Don't get involved in that. You'll get chopped up. Finally, it makes a move back up. Okay, so now I'm watching this top of this trading range again to see if there's going to be any kind of response. Breaks through. If I want to take a trade, it's certainly too late, especially if I want to go long. But at that point, it wasn't really a clean setup to take long. Now it's creating a first entry short, and I don't get anything. It just keeps going. In the meantime, I did draw these trend channels, but just for my own guidance to see if something happened. It keeps going up. There's no real good trade. It doesn't come back to the EMA. I draw this trend channel here. I like it because it touched 3 times here. It touched 2 or 3, however you want to argue, but it did seem pretty confirmed that this is what's happening. It's kind of trading in this little channel here. Comes down, and now it finally breaks through. So what I'm seeing is, okay, it's definitely in a trading range. Here it's at the top of this trading range. It's kind of more of a bullish bias, but it's coming down. So I have to be careful. Don't jump on any trades too soon. So I see, okay, potentially second entry, because if you count this as first entry, is second entry, but it's below the EMA. It is a very bullish bar. Here, if I had entered, I don't think I would have had enough room to scalp out. So I'd still be in this trade, potentially looking at taking a loss. So if I would have kept my stop down here, right here, I'm getting close to being stopped out if I took that trade. And I do see a second entry long if I counted this as a new high. I didn't count this tiny, tiny break up. I just said, okay, first entry long, and the potential second entry long forming here. And as you can see, it does form and it does work. And previously, if I took that entry here, I would have had sweated out coming down here, and then it would have worked for me here. If I had taken the second entry here, a more, I guess, visualized one here, as it broke above the EMA, a little bit safer, I would have been able to scalp out here. So this is a trade potentially that I missed. Prices move up, comes back down, and now it breaks back lower. It's running toward the bottom, and now it's respecting the EMA, and it's kind of going back into this choppy trading range again. So I'm just leaving this alone. So I drew this line and I drew potentially this line just to watch it oscillate, and it's seeing how it plays against the EMA. I don't take any trades yet. Breaks down, touches the bottom of the trading range, okay. Finally, it breaks down below. By the characteristic of this going down, I wasn't sure that it was actually going to do a breakout failure, a failed breakout and come back in, because it looks like it wants to keep going down. And it does. And so I draw this trading channel here, and I just arbitrarily put the bottom one here just to see, okay, well, maybe there's going to be some kind of response or respect. It looks like prices are kind of hovering above this line, respecting it somewhat. There's no chances to get short yet because this is making a new low of the day at this moment. I mean, other than in the pre-market, it's getting pretty close. And there's definitely no chances to take a long because it's risky if you counter trend. So I'm just sitting on my hands. Finally comes down, touches the very bottom where the pre-market was. So, okay, I'm just thinking there's going to be some kind of responsive movement here. Looks like it's coming back up, and it's just kind of bouncing around for a while. I take no trades. Finally, you see a second entry short. Because if you take it from here, even though this is a little bit lower, just take this as one group, new low, first entry short, second entry short, forming right here. There could have been a trade, but again, I'm already at the lows of the day. I wasn't ready to take that. Plus this, if I wanted to take this trade, I'd have to keep my stop way up here. And I wasn't sure that was prudent because it's in hindsight, yes, because you see this downward trend is breaking back into this range, but I just wasn't there mentally. And then I see a confirmation now. I see a second entry short right here, first entry short, second entry short. Even if you want to start it here, you go first entry short and you say this is grouped together. Even though this went one tick below, you say first entry short, second entry short. I see a lower high. I think, okay, this is a good trade. First of all, it tried to go back up. It failed. It failed below the previous candle. It also closed below the EMA. So I took that trade. So far, it's looking good, but I haven't been able to scalp out yet. Then it comes back. Not only comes back, it stops me out because I had one tick above. This is the first trade of the day, and already I'm red. So it was kind of a bummer. I thought it was a good setup. I thought it was high probability, but in this case, I was wrong. It just didn't work out. And it comes back up. So I thought, okay, well, visually, it looks like a failed failed second entry long, because it looks like it's first entry long, second entry long, and it closed at the bottom. It also looked like a second entry short visual. So I just said, okay, first entry short, and this looks like getting ready for second entry short, plus to touch the top of this newly drawn trading trading range. So this is a little bit of a gamble because it is above the EMA. EMA is horizontal, but I took this trade and it ended up working. I got my scalp, but I think my runner got stopped out pretty quickly after that. So I didn't quite get a good runner because I entered at 34.75. I moved it to one tick below that just to make sure it's a free trade, and I got stopped out. In hindsight, I think this was more of a lucky trade because the EMA is turning horizontal now and it's in the middle of this trading range. So this trade, lower high, I thought was a good trade. This one was a little iffy. I probably felt a little bit sore from taking this loss, but I took it anyways. And then here, I took a second loss because I said, okay, well, obviously this is a new low here, first entry short, second entry short, set up right here. But I got faked out because I took it right here and the market immediately reversed and closed up. I should have been more patient, waited for this candle to close before taking that entry. So I took that short and boom, I get stopped out. So it's one red, one green, one red. And immediately I was like, okay, I am over trading for sure because there's not that many good trades in here for me to just jump in that many times. So obviously I need to sit back a little bit and wait. So I followed that discipline for a little while. I say a little while because you're going to see I did have another episode of over trading. Prices come back down, comes back into this trading range, moves along. It comes down here, makes a first entry and then a second entry long. I thought it was a little bit aggressive though, because it's a first entry long plus a failed breakout, depending on how much I trusted that this trading range was legitimate. It is pretty far from the EMA though, and the EMA has proven to me that it's pretty horizontal. So at that point, I just skipped it. I didn't want to take that trade because here is like 825. My last trade was at 813. It's only about 12 minutes away. To say that a setup happened that quickly, maybe not, but more likely I was just thinking I was probably going to get emotional if I just took that trade without feeling more confident about it. So I did. So here I do see a second entry short. I took this as a first entry short and a second entry short. I like this candle because it closed right at the low. Not only is it a failed second entry short, it broke out of this trading range, so I considered it a failed breakout. I have my order ready right here, one tick below. It gets filled. Let me show you. It gets filled right here, right at the low, one tick below, which is 38.50 right here. I was able to scalp out, and then I moved my runner, and my runner got stopped out pretty quickly too. So today felt like a lot of runners wouldn't have worked, so I should have just taken the whole position off immediately when I got my core profit target. But I don't know it at the time, but just in hindsight, I know if I see days like this where it's trending and kind of in a big choppy trading range, asking for runners is probably not going to happen. I should just be more conservative and just take the profit when I see it. So prices kept moving. There's my fourth trade. Fifth trade, as you can see, I'm getting a little over trading now because it's at 8:36 and this trade here was at 8:31. This is only 5 minutes later. I said, okay, I see a first entry short. I see a visual second entry short. Obviously, it's something setting up. I'm gonna get my order ready. And so I do. I take my order because I saw enough room back to the EMA. And fortunately, I was able to get my profit target. And I thought, okay, it might break back into this trading range because it kind of made a lower high compared to this previous higher high. The previous high made a little bit lower. So I thought, okay, might come back in again, even though I'm fighting against the EMA here. So I was able to take the profit target. And then I trailed my runner down. I was able to get a runner on that one. So that's like the fifth trade of the day. Remember, I took 9 today, which is probably a lot more than I should have, especially considering the setups that I saw. So prices kept moving. Right now it's respecting EMA, and I drew this line here to see a double top. It was also another reason that I thought, okay, maybe this is going to work. Prices move up, and I just like to point out at the time, this big trend channel wasn't established yet. So I'm going to put it as a dotted line for now. I eventually put it in, but in the meantime, I drew this smaller one first. So this smaller one is what I was working with initially. And I didn't draw it yet until I got to about here. So here, before all this even happened, I saw a first entry short followed by a second entry short. I think I reviewed this trade, but this is the sixth trade. First entry short, second entry short, and I thought there was enough room to the EMA. I saw a double top, and I thought, okay, it might be worth the trade. It's aggressive, though. It wasn't a clean setup. There wasn't enough key entry points for me to take. But I took it, and it worked. So it's not something I'm proud of, and I need to kind of hammer out those type of ambitious trades. So then I see a first entry long, second entry long. This one's actually a pretty decent setup because it closed right at the EMA. Trend is changing. I drew this after this form, so I didn't have this trend channel to rely on, but I saw that it was kind of closed right at the EMA. And when this one opened and closed, this is an entry I probably would have I should have probably taken right here, even though it made this double top, it wasn't respecting it at this point. I respected it here and here, but here it's breaking through. So I would have placed the trade here, but I wasn't mentally ready at the time. And so as prices moved up to about here, that's when I drew this trend channel. And I noticed it was an overshoot, and I thought, okay, it might come back down. It does. Right here, I wasn't sure if it was going to bounce off the EMA or not. So there's no trade, no setup really that I wanted to take. You could argue that this is a new low, first entry short, second entry short, because it makes two moves up. You certainly could. I didn't. I just wasn't quite aware or see it in real time fast enough. So then it oscillates and it chops. This is another trade, the seventh trade that I took. So I saw first entry long, and I'm getting ready for a second entry long here. I do take it. It is an ambitious trade because it does close above the EMA, but it's running right into this trend line that I have drawn here. So I took it. I was lucky that it worked, but there's no telling that it would have worked if you take it a bunch of times. So it's certainly something I should just be very careful of, because look how choppy it was. I would have gotten stopped out if I had a bad entry or I entered too late. Prices kept moving left. Excuse me. Prices kept moving right. At this point, it's respecting the EMA, which is good. And then it shoots up, and now it's testing the high of this trend channel. At this point, I'm wondering, okay, this trend channel is looking pretty good with that one overshoot. And now this overshoot needs to be corrected by another overshoot. Well, it doesn't have to be corrected, but it's showing a different undershoot, I guess. Saw a second entry long here. I didn't like it. It does have a good candle, but it's close to the, you have enough room to get the EMA, but I just wasn't sure if this trend channel was going to block it or not, but because it had an overshoot here and it is coming back in. But in hindsight, it might have been worth a shot, although the stop would have to have been way down here. And I wasn't sure at the time I was ready to take that kind of risk. So I left it alone. But mental note is that this one probably would have been a worthwhile entry to take. Moves up, oscillates left and right, and it comes back down. So I took this is my, I think, 8th trade of the day. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, this is my 8th trade of the day. I like this trade actually because it was a first entry long, second entry long. EMA is kind of flat. At this point, this is where I drew, because when this one marked, I wasn't sure if there was a bigger channel in play. So what I did was I drew this guy. It's dotted at the time, and now it's going to be solid because I saw first swing, second swing. I thought, okay, well, maybe this is going to work, because I also saw first swing, second swing. And I said, okay, this might be worthwhile to see if there's a bigger trading range. So when it came down here, I got a little more courage. I said, I like the way this candle closed. I'm going to take an entry. I did. I put it one candle above, one tick above right here. And I was fortunate. The trade worked out. And I also got stopped out on my runner. So it's still profitable. And now it's in a choppy trend channel, or trading range, horizontal trading range. It's respecting the EMA. So it's a little bit risky to take a long because you don't know if the EMA is going to squish it down. It ends up going up higher. And it breaks up higher. Now it's back into this trading range. So I'm playing between two overlapping trading ranges, not sure which one's the right one. I think they're both valid depending on what time of day I was trading and what I was looking at. So this one also had a breakout and it went back in. And here it respected another time. So I'm thinking, okay, this big channel might be worthwhile. And this smaller channel looks like it might have played out. So I just kind of ended the smaller channel here because it was good guidance until the big one came into play. And so here I see, okay, I see potentially a first entry long and then a second entry long here. So I did group that. You could argue like, okay, there's a bunch of, you could argue a hidden second entry long here, but I just look for a deliberate first entry long here and then goes up, and I'm getting ready for a second entry long here. So I have my order ready because I like that it closed above. I like that it's respecting the EMA. I have my order ready, and boom, I get filled. And not only do I get filled, my runner runs for a little bit. So I was able to scalp a little bit of profit, but I also see a second entry short here. If you count this new low, first entry short, second entry short, but I'm in the mode of managing my runner. So I wasn't ready to take a reverse trade immediately, try to scalp this profit, and that's okay. So I just kind of left it alone. I did get my runner, comes back down. So it looks like there's a new trend starting. Well, not a new trend, but a new trend channel starting, because it's broken past this guy a few times now. It didn't come back up and touch this high, so it's kind of weakening. So it's also kind of going horizontal now. So what I did was I watched and I drew the second trend channel starting from here to here, and I had a touch from here to here. And I thought, okay, well, maybe there's like a disjointed trend channel happening, like a good big one and a slightly smaller one. I did see a first entry long and a second entry long here, but I thought it was aggressive because it didn't quite touch the EMA and immediately came back up, and it looks like it's respecting this resistance here that I saw. Plus, there's another resistance of this guy, which is the top of the trading range of the full day, which was established kind of at the beginning in the pre-market, this guy and this guy. So I didn't want to take a long there, thinking, well, there's kind of a lot of things I'm playing against that I might get smashed on, so I'm definitely going to leave it alone. But I also saw a first entry short and a second entry short here. But I thought I didn't like that because the second entry short is counter trend trading. And it's counter to the big trend, which is clearly saying, look, I'm bullish right now. So even though I'm hitting the top of these resistances, it's just something I thought, okay, I better just leave it alone. Prices go back down, comes back up. I see another potential second entry short, because you could say this is a new low, first entry short, second entry short. Again, it's respecting this line here. This is a pretty decent candle, but I didn't think I had enough room to confidently be able to scalp out. You could take it, it's aggressive. It would have worked, but at the time you don't know that. Prices kept moving. It looks like it's respecting this trading channel now, so I feel more confident in using it. Comes up, touches the top, it breaks out through the top. So, okay, I need to be careful what's happening. It comes back in, it's respecting the EMA, although it broke down a few times. So I'm thinking, okay, it might just be riding the EMA above and below, but overall it's a bullish trend. I see a first entry long, second entry long, but I didn't want to take it just because it closed below the EMA and it's getting close to the end of the day. So it just kind of tells me, okay, well, maybe it's time to wrap it up. Be pretty grateful that my over trading didn't come back to bite me today. I'm sure it would on another day, and I'm sure it would in the future if I'm not careful. So just kind of sat back, wrote it out, watched the rest of the trade price action happen, and I just kind of just was pretty grateful that I started with a red trade, red trade, then the rest were green. Granted, some of them were aggressive. I probably shouldn't have taken them. And it's just kind of another little mental note that I need to keep track of. I'm seeing this big choppy trading range type of day. I need to be very careful what I see and be more judicious on what trades I take. So hopefully that was helpful to you guys. Certainly was helpful to me.